It is Thursday night, and Bill Strand is dancing for us. It is 8 p.m.
That's
on the
right.
east, 5 p.m. on the west, also known as Pacific by Bill. And yes, my time zone naming protest continues because Tom and I are on the Eastern time zone, so we don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to worry about
So
him
sorry for you guys.
causing
I
me any
mean,
trouble. But no, it's 8 o'clock for us. Once again, we are blessed to have the famous co-host back from Madagascar, where he hung out with lemurs, social media celebrities, and of course, chameleons.
that's right.
The headmaster of the Chameleon Academy, Bill Strand.
Still
Who am
dancing.
I?
Still dancing.
Still dancing. Who am I? I'm your host, Sean McNeely, also known as McZoo. And now, please welcome our guest for the second time, Two Turtle Tom Arbor.
Woo!
So,
Thank you.
how did we get the name Two Turtle? Did you name yourself? Did someone name you?
My buddy in graduate school named me that. He was from New Jersey, so it's kind of like my New Jersey mafia name, I think. But
There you go.
I
Now,
had two hinchback tortoises at the time, so he's like, "Yeah, you're Two Turtle Tom."
so so then we would make fun of us in the same way. Bill and I should get nicknames like that. I guess
Yeah.
Headmaster of the Chameleon Academy kind of sounds like one of those names you'd get. Headmaster being the and I'm just gonna have to McZoo. McZoo, actually, I think I mentioned how I got that before on the air, but if I didn't, when my wife and I were first married and we were living in an apartment, my uncle-in-law came over and he said that it was like a zoo in here. And he said, "You're McZoo." And that was how it all started. And we've continued for 30 years now that we've gone by that moniker. But, it was one of those things that just happened because I had a bunch of pets over. I had saltwater fish. I had an iguana. I think we had a tortoise back then even. And baby seahorses. Jen is chiming in from the background.
Nice.
So we were a McZoo. So, anyways, our topic for today is
We got a lot of people to say hello to.
Oh, whoa, I'm sorry. You know what? I keep forgetting about the thing. So, hi. All right. So, who are these people?
We got
James Cross,
James Cross,
Stephanie
and a mystery
Payne.
Facebook user.
These are some of our most common people, and of course, Tom. We had to bring him on because he's been our guest. He's been on the guest side once, but he's been on the chat a whole bunch. So we had to bring him on, and what have you.
Well, wait a minute. I got a quiz for everybody.
Okay.
And in honor of, what do you think I'm building here?
What do we think?
A fogger.
That tells me it's a flogger, but the other stuff doesn't at all. It's not that way.
See, I got help from James on this one.
Okay.
And you'll get to see it on the Chameleon Hour tomorrow.
All right. What? Okay, so this is who is the member Facebook users? Put your name in there. Maybe it's the same people. Oh, all right.
Yeah. That's James who knows exactly what it is.
Exactly what that is. Okay. All right. All right, Bill.
I'm proud of my father.
I had too much caffeine in me. Apparently, Bill had a little bit more earlier in the day. Our topic today is finding Tom a perfect chameleon. He's a turtle man. He's a tortoise man, but he needs a chameleon, and we talked about it at the show. We actually met up at the show, and we talked about he needed a chameleon, and we talked a little bit about this, and we decided this would be a good thing to put on. Yeah. So that's how we got to this point. Other parts of the show update. So I met with Charles Cook, and I actually bought two boas from him.
Oh, wow.
I bought a male and female that actually live together. They're 2 years old. They're boa imperators. So I decided to call them Julius Caesar and Cleopatra because imperator is how they came up with the word emperor. And so that I'll have to name all of my rest of my boas after Roman emperors, or maybe not just Roman.
Latin derivatives.
Maybe if I get enough of them, I'll have to name them after other emperors. But I went with the Latin and the Roman people. And then I met up with Rachel from Pet Pods and Peds. And I got some isopods. I got, let's see if I can get this on the camera. I got these clown isopods, Armadillium colugi. I got 10 of those. They're black.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're black with white dots. They weren't very expensive, but I just tried to get some. And then I got the stuff she recommends. Of course, it's backwards in the on the camera, but Lugardi's for substrate. I got the premium millipod and isopod substrate from her, and got out of there under $60. So that ain't bad. And I actually, she's going to be at the next. I have another reptile show to go to this weekend. She goes to both of them, so I'm going to probably hit her up for some more. I just wanted to get some under my way, and I was already planning to get the 2 snakes, so I didn't want to give myself a lot more work. But anyways, that's the 3 things that happened at the reptile show of note. Actually, Keith from Herps Alive, I met up with him and I bought some light bulbs from him. I bought his last 2 T5 6% light bulbs that are what are they called? Bill, what is the main kind of light bulbs we buy?
The Arcadia?
Arcadia, yes. He had the 2 more, and he buys them from, I think, Pangea and Pangea reptiles, and they give him a discount because he's a reptile shelter. So, and then he doesn't pass the savings on to me, but he probably doubles it. But but nonetheless, I support the reptile shelter wholeheartedly, and I gave him a bonus as well. And I think my wife got a little metal piece that is a little lizard that we're hanging on one of our walls over here. Maybe if we have time, I'll get it. But nonetheless, that's what happened in the reptile show this week. And next week, I'm going to have to find another. This week, I'm going to have to meet somebody else at the reptile show so I can have somebody for a guest or make something up along the way. But this is Tom's turn. Oh, wait a minute. We got to have announcements. I skipped announcements. Bill, other than you're making a fogger, what else do you have to announce?
I'm making a freaking awesome fogger.
Okay, there you go. A freaking awesome. It's as opposed to an ordinary fogger like I have. We did an entire episode over my fogger. I just want you to remember that.
I remember that, and it's an awesome fogger, but there is a special twist to this, but you're going to have to see it tomorrow at the Chameleon Hour. And I actually bring on James Cross on, and he shows us what he's done, and I'm replicating what he's done because you know what? I'm not going to talk about something that I'm not going to talk about. So.
I got him talking.
And so we're going to be doing the Chameleon Hour, and so everybody knows with the Chameleons we do every other week is the Chameleon Hour. Every other week is the Chameleon podcast, but on Saturday we always do a live at noon Pacific. And so your assignment is just to sit back and watch about an hour's worth of just talking about chameleon stuff. I'm also going to be talking about my my beautiful pothos here. Everybody's saying, yeah, but that's just a plant. Yeah, well, you know what? I was able to order this plant from somebody who's going to find me the best looking ones. And so this is like a game changer. You know, instead of me going off to all these different places to look for plants,
so, Tom,
I get it coming to my doorstep.
Unlike tortoises or most tortoises, plants in a chameleon cage are extremely important. Now, I know the tortoises live without them, and you can plant things in a tortoise cage, but you just can't have a chameleon without a plant.
Oh, look, Steph knows exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pothos Enjoy. Hey, see, we got all sorts of plant people.
All right. So Jason's there. So Jason is here, and thank you for being here. And Tom, do you have any announcements? You doing anything new or exciting?
To Turtle Tom on YouTube. Check it out.
All right.
To do a lot of turtle and tortoise care videos and a lot of shorts of my animals.
They're awesome. I've been watching them.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I got ideas. Remember I asked you about the way you watered your tortoises, and I ended up getting a 2 different size chicken waterers or poultry waterers, and I got a bigger one for my bigger tortoise and a smaller one, and they love it. They actually I actually pulled my water basin out of my bigger tortoises container because they kept getting crickets in it. And I don't know where crickets came from, unfortunately, because I'm dropping them in the basement. But I put them in and I put it there and they seem to love it. They go for it and
Great.
it seems very good. So all right, that's awesome. And one more thing, Bill, I just want you to know that I did upgrade my fogger recently. And what I decided to do is because I started with clear base because I wanted to be able to see how much water was in it, so I knew how to refill it.
Yep.
But the next thing I did was I added a plunger to actually automatically refill it, so it never really got below a certain level. And then what happened, because I had a clear sided thing, eventually they got to creating algae in them. So even though algae is relatively healthy, and I had each one of them has a water pump in it, pumping water around. I decided that I would get dark sided ones. I got the black ones from Home Depot, the same kind, and so I'm just going to replace them because I kept cleaning them, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And so finally, lightning struck, just like it did for some people for the show, and I decided, hey, I might have wanted to put a dark color here so that I don't.
I got a dark one.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's what reminded me. So, all right.
Well, I just taking a look at YouTube and Two Turtle Tom, and he's doing a pretty good job at this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
that's some good stuff.
Yes, he's on a turtle podcast and everything. I don't know how often.
Oh, that's right.
There,
but... So let's talk turtles. It's relatively new, but I'm doing that with Ryan Dumas, who is a professional zookeeper. So we talk turtles about twice a month.
And I've heard a couple of those podcasts. So those are very interesting. So everyone should listen to that as well. So let's get to the topic at hand, I guess.
Chameleon.
So, Tom, where are you located so we can figure out how to best get you a chameleon?
Yeah, so I'm near Sean. I'm in Akron, Ohio, the home of LeBron James.
The NBA leading scorer now, right?
Yes.
We got to like him again because he's popular. Although his LA Lakers are not in the running right now, and the Cavs are, so that's amazing because he was the reason why the Cavs got to their championship. But nonetheless, he left us, so we were upset about that. All right, so like, and you're talking about putting chameleons in your basement or where?
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. So we have this really deep, really cold basement. In the summer, it stays about 65 degrees all the time down there. No air conditioning even. And then in the winter, it's about 55 degrees in places in the basement. So, these species that love those cold temperatures, I think really could fit in that room.
Wait a minute. Why aren't we talking axolotls?
Yeah, they're I don't know. Do they do anything?
No, they don't. They just lay there.
they just sit there.
They look like tadpoles running around, and they never grow up. They never become a frog.
I look at all the axolotls and think, wow, a chameleon would be so much cooler.
Which, of course, probably this weekend, I'll meet an axolotl person who can come on the show next week and refute it. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll go up to the axolotl booth at Fremont and ask them if they can refute it on against the show and see what happens.
There was some smack talking last week. Just want to give people time.
Exactly. All right. So you want an import or a captive born?
Well, I definitely want to start with a captive born animal. Maybe someday I would love to work with an obscure chameleon and try to establish it. But right now, I just need an animal that's going to be rock solid and just be my really family pet.
Okay.
They look
Have
super
you decided on gender or sex, male, female? Does it matter?
No, not really. I'm opportunistic, right? So I don't have anything set in mind. I just want an animal to learn the trade. I've listened to every single one of Bill's podcasts. Wow. I went back from the beginning.
Wow, that's a lot.
And I've listened to every one of them. So it's like, okay, I think I'm ready now.
Yeah.
You realize how much things have changed from 10 years ago, though.
Well,
So,
but
as you
it
get
is
through them,
interesting.
things get different.
Yeah, it is. But of course, Bill updated some of those podcasts, so that was great that he went back. Because I definitely benefited from that. I can only imagine some of the early ones. Maybe you were in a shower with a chameleon, Bill. I don't know.
You mean my husbandry or the sound of the podcast?
No, yeah, you kept and the corrected hydration one. You talked about showers and putting your chameleon in the shower or something like that.
Did I talk about that? I corrected that, or did I?
You corrected it. You said,
Okay.
yeah, maybe like before people used to put their chameleon and give them showers, like in their shower.
Yeah, well, the hydration is the biggest thing that's changed in chameleon husbandry over the last 10 years. And it's more than just a, okay, let's change just because we're going to be difficult.
Yeah.
The increased awareness of the hydration cycles has opened the door for people to be successful with species that we haven't been successful with before. So, yeah, I mean, it's started a renaissance of
James Cross has a question. Wait, you shower with chameleons, Bill? And I thought I was bad.
Now wait a minute. Now we're starting rumors. This is getting out of hand.
So, no, he said that is not appropriate, but
okay.
hinted
that is no longer appropriate.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was saying. He didn't say that it wasn't ever.
Wait a minute. I never said the shower with the chameleon. It's the chameleon in the shower that we used to do.
Where were you when the chameleon was in the shower? Were you in the other room?
Not in the shower
with watching the chameleon.
I mean, who was in the shower when the chameleon was in the shower? It's like
a freaking ficus tree. What the heck?
All right, and a ficus those are hard to keep. The leaves fall off at the drop of a hat. I don't know. All right, okay.
So I've definitely seen that evolution in the care through listening to Bill's podcast and looking at his sheets and then the full information on the website. I love those. I entered reptile keeping right in the late 80s, early 90s, and I remember all of these like big chameleons in pet stores. You'd see like one or two a year that they would get in, and that was about it, right? And nobody knew how to keep them alive for very long at all. So I was just, I kind of put those aside as something people don't really know about. And how I found Bill is, Sean, we moved up to Northeast Ohio in May of 2021, and we went to a reptile show, Cleveland show. And I think you had a booth there.
I did.
And my son, who was like 9 at the time, he talked to you for like 15 minutes about chameleons. And
I didn't. Chameleons. I love to talk about them. I only had 5 of them there, so 7.
And you had I didn't have chameleons on my radar really at all. I mean, I'm a tortoise guy, but I had gotten back into tortoises. And so he handed me this paper which had this logo on it that said Chameleon Academy. I'm like, where'd you get this? So that's how I found out about it. And I just kind of filed that into my memory banks. But a couple months later, I started a new job where we have panther chameleons on display. So I'm like, I want to learn a little bit more about these guys. I heard about this Chameleon Academy thing. I'm going to go look for that. And now we're sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. See, it went from meeting me at the show to getting to Bill and listening to all of Bill's podcasts. And now it's hook, line, and sinker. You're on the line and we're talking about reeling you in with the chameleon.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
It worked. That's the purpose of me going to the show was to get people addicted to chameleons without them knowing. And so, I mean, I think I went 10 times in a row. I only sold a couple chameleons, but I made a lot of people and made a lot of friends. So it was worth it. But now I just like to go to the show and buy stuff. It was good to go to the show and actually come back with more money than I left. I'd never done that before. I'd been to the show for 10 or 15 years in a row, and I never went to the show and came back with more money than I left. And those out of those 10 times, I probably came back with more money 3 times. So it really wasn't that profitable for chameleons. But because it was like I only had 8 chameleons and I had big cages. I actually had one of Bill's cages setting up a Dragon Strand cage set up so I could show people how to do things. It was more about talking about publicity and publicizing the chameleons and doing what. And it paid off in the end because I sold a lot of chameleons online later on. And I think they had to do with me making connections, and I'm doing this thing now, and I'm meeting people at the show and bringing them on. So it was a good thing. So maybe someday I'll get back into the show. But I hear the show is actually so packed that you can't get in. I was talking to one of the people who was at the Fremont show and couldn't get into the show, but she actually got called the day before the show, the Cleveland show, and asked to be in there. And I said, whatever you do when you get called, say yes. And she's a young lady who's smelling snakes. I bought a couple smaller snakes from her a month ago, and she said yes, and she was there. So good for her. Well, maybe we'll have her on. I'll have to ask her next time I see her. She'll be at the next show.
I wish there were captive bred chameleons that were sold at that show, right? There's nobody that breeds their own chameleons there.
But there's a bunch of people selling wild caughts for a quarter the price I can sell them for.
Yeah.
I can't actually sell a captive bred chameleon for $50.
Yeah.
Because I'd put everybody else out of business. I don't have to make money off because this is my avocation and not my vocation. I'm a doctor on TV. And I'm just playing a chameleon guy here. But in real life, I do medicine and what have you. But nonetheless, it's just you just can't do that. And as Bill has said in the past, if you sell something for less than it's worth, people will treat it like it's value.
Yeah.
And so if you can't sell your chameleon, if the person doesn't want it for more, then they're not really getting the value, and they won't treat it well. And so it'll die and it'll be miserable. And that's not why I'm breeding chameleons or anything else. So anyways, we were talking about that. We were talking male versus female. You don't have a preference?
No. I mean, I love the Jackson chameleons males. They're great, right? Mm-hmm. The Machacos Hills females have horns too, right? I mean,
yes.
I would love to have a pair eventually. I think the species that are different, have different facial horns and processes and things like that. It's really cool to see the male and the female look so different. So eventually I'd love to have a pair. But yeah, I just want an animal to start with that's going to do well, that's going to be a solid animal, that will teach me the basics.
So are you talking about a live bear or the eggs? I guess eggs don't bother you because your tortoises drop eggs.
I certainly can incubate eggs. Because I work with hinchback tortoises, they live in Africa. These African species that are live bears tend to interest me, right? I think they're a little bit more obscure than the Madagascar species. And yeah, I really like the mainland of Africa. So Jackson's chameleons, the Onellii I've seen, the Elliots.
Well, you named the 3 that that would be really good for those
and then there's another one that I've seen called a dwarf Fisher's chameleon, and like Kayunga or something like that, or I don't know.
Kayunga Bomi.
There you go. Yeah,
I have one of those too. I actually have one male that someone sent me. My females passed away. I think probably while I was out, they need a little more care. But I have a male that they look like a miniature. What do you call it? The one from Madagascar that has the horns.
Minor, bifida.
Minor, yeah. I have my minor right next to it, so they look like big and small. But they're kind of rare and usual. But the male's been very good. I've never had any trouble with them. The female just dropped, and I don't know why. But I'm probably a nutrient that I wasn't doing or whatever. I actually produced a couple over time, and but I don't know. But anyways, okay, so horns, you want horns, or you want the
It'd
option
be
of having
nice.
some kind of facial prominence, or
Yeah,
some kind
it's
of
kind of nice.
fingernail type issue on the face that
Yeah,
that
that's
grows and
pretty
does its
cool.
thing. All right. What about colors? Any preference for colors or size?
I mean, the panther chameleons are incredible. We have some at work that
Mhm.
are from camouflage. So
Mhm.
I get my dose of color every Thursday when I'm at our campus that has the
Mhm.
chameleons. I mean, it's mind blowing, right?
Mhm.
I'm more interested in learning about where the animal lives in the wild. My
Mhm.
wife got me the Mountain Dragons book from
Oh,
Bill
Oh man,
for Christmas.
that is an incredible book. That got me hooked on Honelii.
Yeah.
Bill was calling me McNeely for a while. I had so many different things, and I wanted to get those. And I went through those a little bit, but those are a little more. There's something with them that we don't know,
Yeah.
and they're all kind of short lived in the even in captivity. People who can keep them outside do seem to do much better than the rest of us who can't all year round. And so I don't know that they're a perfect. I haven't figured out how to work them here in the Ohio area. Maybe I'm missing something, but I keep getting good ones, and I keep them for 6 or 8 months, and then they just dwindle. And I don't know what that is. And I don't know. I had a problem with one of my supplements at one point, and it tore through, and I had a virus that went through and tore that actually only tore through my quads, but my female quads only. But nonetheless, yeah, those are pretty. What's the one that's the most striking features, Bill? It's the Honelii that's
Altigonus, well,
yeah,
that's not an
yeah,
official subspecies, but the one from Uganda,
yeah,
Mount Elgon.
Uganda, right?
Yeah.
I think probably stick to Kenya because you can get better
You can get
stuff there. You can get
something
more
from
frequent,
Kenya.
right? Yeah, exactly. So what about size? Panther size, smaller size, Meller size. Mellers are like
Yeah.
the biggest.
Giant.
Other than
Yeah.
Parsonii, which one is giant in one way and one is giant in the other.
I think a moderate size is what I'm looking for, right? Not too small. The small ones kind of look fragile. I don't know if that's true or not, but they just look a little bit more fragile.
Yeah, some of them are, but
Yeah, the Jacksons. Some of those get huge, right? Then some of the like the Machacos Hills Jackson seems to be a bit smaller.
yeah,
So I like the idea of having something that's not tiny, but not going to be gigantic.
okay. All right.
Well, I mean, hey, that just turn me loose. I'll let you know what I think. You have a great you have the cool temperatures in your basement, and so we are looking. That's a great way to raise healthy veiled chameleons and Jackson's chameleons.
Oh wow.
And so, yeah, what people don't realize is veiled chameleons are actually a higher altitude chameleon than your Xantholophus Jackson's chameleons.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, they would love to have those nighttime drops. People get away with not doing the nighttime drops and abusing them is because veiled chameleons are just so, I don't know what they have in their Wheaties,
Bulletproof,
but boy,
right?
they will
I
take.
called my veiled Deadpool because it just nothing bothered it. I went through it, and I lasted for years and years. But
Yeah.
so,
This is why it's a problem when you're I try not to get too salty here, but people who want to become experts and teach other people how to take care of chameleons, if you base the success of your techniques on a veiled chameleon, it's not applicable. Okay, go back and study.
You're my guru, Bill.
That's like
I only listen to Bill. I take his advice.
You can keep a redfoot tortoise alive. You can keep and I think we talked about you can keep a tortoise in the bottom of an ocean boat for weeks and weeks on end without feeding or watering it, and it would do okay. So that's that's the veiled isn't quite that hardy, but it's really, really hardy. And you can get those pied veils. They have the missing coloring, and I think those are kind of cool. I may have to get one of those someday. But
I'm
I've
not
got too many chameleons right now.
I definitely like the natural animals for sure.
Pied is natural, bred in, but yes, I think there are some pieds in the wild, but no, it's not a common phenomenon.
Yeah, so it's really between, if you like the look of the veiled chameleon and the Jackson's chameleon. Your veiled chameleons have they will have a more distinct personality. That
like they're pains in the butts. I've heard.
Distinct, you mean nasty?
Well, which way that personality goes is completely random. I have veiled chameleons that are just love bugs. I won't call them love bugs. No, I see. I get myself in trouble because everyone goes, "Yay, well, let's snuggle our veiled chameleons." No, let's not. But they have no problem with. I put my hand in their cage, and they're just, "Oh, you again," and I can put them in my hand, and they're just annoyed until I bring out a superworm. Then all of a sudden, oh, okay, you're okay, and but then you have some veiled chameleons that are just nasty and want nothing to do with you. My chameleons, the most I interact with them is I hand feed them, and that's my way of taming. Because if you hand feed your chameleon every day, or every other day, or once a week, just get him that familiar. Then when it gets to the point where you actually have to take him out to do an exam or take him to the vet, he's not all that bad to do that. You don't have to actually hold your chameleon to, quote, tame them enough to take them to the vet. It doesn't, you don't have to.
Interesting.
So but veiled chameleons are just distinct personalities, big personality there.
Strong personalities.
One way or the other. No matter what they are, they're strong.
Yes.
So are you actually holding a superworm in your fingers and they'll zap it? That's cool.
And I have different kind of roaches, and so those are treats. Green banana roaches are a great treat. I can't.
Now that your wife sold those, you don't have those anymore.
No, she hasn't sold them yet. But yeah, my wife took over my green banana roaches. But the thing is, they fly, they climb up the sides of plastic and glass, so there's no way I can really feed them except by my hand. So yeah, that's the treat, and that's what I do. So between and Jackson's chameleon, of course, either the Machecaos hills or the Xantholophus would do pretty well.
Yeah, awesome. The Machecaos hill female has 1 or 3 horns, and my experience actually with one female I had 1 horn for 1.5 years, and then grew 2 more.
That's cool.
I have pure documentation of it happening.
Wow.
I thought I had a 1 horn chameleon, and it grew 2 more. And I'm like, wow. And it's actually very colorful. And I'm like, oh no, is this a male? Very hard to tell the difference between the 3-horn Jackson Machecaos hill male at the 9 months to age, male versus female. As they get older, the males definitely get more colored and brighter. But this female is very bright, but she's got 3 horns, and so it's weird. But nonetheless,
cool.
What more can we add to this?
So let's talk about enclosures.
Okay.
I've been on Bill's website. I was disappointed to see he's not not selling his atrium cages anymore because they just got too expensive. It sounds like. Is that?
Yeah, and I have right now I can't supply the drainage tray with it.
Okay.
That's a huge thing, and so people have to figure out what to do for drainage, and so we're working through that problem.
And I think that's my biggest question, right? Bill, I know you've gone bioactive with some of your chameleons, and that's just kind of my general way of keeping the reptiles I keep. I've never had an animal where I would have to collect the water at the bottom of the enclosure, right? That's what the drainage tray is for. People have drains that actually go to like to their basement floor drain or something like that. Is that how that works?
Well, if you have a drainage tray, then you can just use a wet dry vac and suck it up. That's what I do.
Or you
That
could
works.
use the drainage tray and you put a hole in it and you put a drain all the way down to the floor drain or whatever you might do.
Yeah,
Or you hook 10 of them together and you put it
Yeah.
into the floor drain.
Yeah.
Not that I have any of this kind of stuff downstairs in my basement, but
Yeah. And so
or you
I've
drill a
been
hole in it and you put the hole into a 5-gallon bucket and you empty the 5-gallon bucket every once in a while. But it ends up, but most of my cages, even though they're mostly bare bottoms, I don't end up getting a lot in the bucket in the bottom. It either dries up and they're not going to play in it. They poop in it, but if I have enough drainage, the poop runs out. So I don't have a lot of bioactive. I just started doing bioactive stuff. Like I told you last week, or last weekend, I bought some isopods, but no, the drainage tray, it all depends. People do it all kinds of different ways. And I used to use glass cages, and glass cages, they're good, but they don't have usually holes at the bottom, and the bottom is not tempered glass. So if you drill it, you're going to break it probably. And so you have to figure out how to decrease the amount of water you put in it, or you'll get a huge mess. Or you have to suck it out of the bottom and build something like a dart frog container where you can vacuum it out or what have you, leaf litter or whatever in the bottom. So there's a bunch of ways to do it, and it just depends. The bottom of the cage, Bill, you correct me if I'm wrong, isn't really a place where the chameleon hangs out or does much. It doesn't matter what you put on the bottom. If it's bare bottom, it you can see the poop, and that's a good thing for you. So it's not really in the average common chameleons, but as we get into these newer chameleon babies and what have you, bioactive is the way to go. They seem to live better. A few of the people like Michael Nash that we've had on here have had great success going bioactive. But for Jacksons, for Hanelii, from Panthers, for what am I just forgot the one that we talked about, the most common chameleon besides Panthers. Veiled, yes, veiled. See, I don't like them enough that I don't even remember their names.
Wow, forgot about veiled chameleons.
I forgot the names. I'm tired. It's been a long day. But veiled chameleons, exactly. I know I didn't forget about them. I just forgot what their name was. But they don't necessarily need a bioactive bottom. I don't know that they're benefited. Maybe they are. Bill, do you have an opinion on that, or?
I don't think they're benefited directly by having a bioactive bottom because they just don't go down to the bottom of the cage when they're happy. Really, when you talk about the larger chameleons, the benefit of bioactive is only that it's a good exercise for the keeper to start thinking about the cage with the environment. Not just I've got a chameleon captive. They're thinking about creating an environment for the cage, and that practice, that mindset helps them pay attention to the humidity cycles and the ebb and flow during the day, and soon we're going to be talking about throughout the year. So if somebody is getting a larger chameleon like a veiled or panther or Jacksons, I generally discourage them from doing bioactive just because it's two totally different hobbies, and it doesn't really benefit the chameleon much. When we start getting to the smaller chameleons, we're starting to see they do really well. But then again, that may be not because it's bioactive, but because people who are doing bioactive are also paying attention to the humidity cycles. And a lot of these smaller chameleons that we didn't do well with before probably weren't able to handle the kind of I won't say abuse, the kind of conditions a veiled chameleon would tolerate.
Yeah, no. So something that I just thought of when you were talking about that, the smaller animals and hydration, and for the longest time, I really didn't understand why chameleons have such issues with hydration. But Bill, I asked you once something like, and you're like, it's because they live in trees. Like There's not water in a tree. You have to get really creative to be a chameleon. But so if you're a smaller chameleon, right, your interior space to surface area, that ratio is a lot smaller or bigger than a big chameleon, right? So a bigger chameleon, I think, would be more efficient and dehydrate um, less easily than a smaller chameleon. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The
Yeah.
problem, the challenge that chameleons have is during the rainy season, doesn't matter where you are, there's water all over the place. You can be up
Yeah.
in the trees, you can be down on the ground,
Okay.
you can be anywhere, and you got water all over the place. During the dry season, there's no water. And you either, for the chameleons that hide, like, I mean, some panther chameleons dig into the ground and curl up and wait for who knows how long. Some chameleons hide in under detritus and in trees and stuff like that. I mean, Parsons chameleons aren't able to really hide, and so they've got to hunker down and go to a brumation thing. But there's no water. There's no water anywhere because it's all dry. And so, yeah, they have to adjust to the situation. And, nighttime humidity is all they got.
Yeah,
That's all they got to work with. And we in the community can go back and forth arguing about just how much it works. But I don't think anybody can argue that's all they've got to work with. Either they're using it or not, they're not.
Well, I listened to your most recent episode. And so
that was a fun one.
I won't be offering I won't be teaching my chameleon to drink from a cup.
Oh, come on now. You got to be on the avant-garde, Keep them something.
Oh, and if somebody wants to offer their chameleon a cup.
That episode was about critical thinking and how to critically think and make it.
Right.
And it wasn't that was his example, but it was about being that critical thought, and how to decide if something's good or bad. And there's a lot of smack being talked about that episode in different places like Reddit.
I'm sorry.
There is.
if you don't, if you're not going to go strong, you shouldn't go or something like that. So
I heard something in a podcast recently that if no one hates you, you never took a stand. And I think Winston Churchill actually said that if you're not disliked, you've never taken a stand. So Bill is taking a few stands, I guess.
That's awesome.
Over time. But you know what? My old professor used to say, "Love me, hate me, don't be indifferent." So I guess if you get a strong reaction out of people, that's always a way to go. But anyways, we'll get back to the topic at hand.
Well, one other question I have. I know Bill keeps his chameleons outside a lot. You talk about that a lot. Sean, do you bring your animals out in the summer?
Sure, but I don't keep them out.
Okay.
There's a lot of wildlife by my house. I live by Metro Park, which is a city park that, I've got a valley that's 50 feet down, and it's got a creek running through it. So there's a lot of big things that could eat them, and so I bring them out during the day and I sun them, and I know that does cause some stress, so I don't do it every day. Maybe when I get a point where I can build some structures that are permanent and it doesn't anger anyone in my housing association, which is why I might be moving at some point in the future. Because to build a fence, it takes an act of God and 3 signatures from the Pope and 2 from the president. And I don't mean the president of the housing association. I think it means the president of the United States, if we could find him. It does all that. So I may be in a different city in some point. Then that'll be ideal for my tortoises, who I bring out, all the time. I let them run in my backyard, my front yard, and what have you. But also for my chameleons. But you're capable of keeping them in Ohio inside all year round, as long as you've got the appropriate lighting. I fog every night. I mist 3 times a day, and I run a dripper. Especially in the middle seasons, in the summer, in the spring and the fall, there's enough moisture in the air here to really do things. But when you get the air conditioning running, it sucks all the moisture out of the air. When you turn the heat on, it sucks all the moisture out of the air. I know they're opposite ends of the spectrum, but here in Ohio, though, that's the way things are. So I get really, if I don't get crazy about moisture in the winter and in the summer, the midsummer, even though there's supposed to be moisture outside, my air conditioning's running in the basement, I lose some chameleons or things, or at least I find that they're drinking from the dripping. And the dripping is supposed to be an extra thing. So, I'm putting things like ice cubes on top of the cage to let to watch to see that they're drinking or what have you. Most of the time they don't. So I feel good about the fact that I'm misting 3 times a day and fogging. And I've got to, check out the episode with Bill and I on his Chameleon Academy podcast where I talk about my fogging system. I've got 20 cages being fogged by a single fog machine. And so I've got plenty of fog. It goes all night long. At one point, I was putting my I went down to my basement at 3:00 in the morning, and there was actually a rain cloud. That was because I had individual foggers, and I had them on full blast, and I was fogging every cage with a fogger. And I didn't have as many cages as I have now, and I never realized it because it would dry out by the midday or when I got down there, and so I was like, wow, I'm glad I got up at 3:00 in the morning. I don't remember what woke me up, and I wanted to, let me go check out the foggers downstairs. I'm like, holy mackerel, it's raining from the ceiling. And luckily my basement's only partially finished, but no, now that I have a single fog machine doing everything, and I would never fog the entire room because that makes for damage, and that makes it, but you just fogging, and the chameleons actually walk up to the fog, and you find them sleeping in front of the fog, and it doesn't matter if I move the fog thing, like I used to use my single foggers. If I moved it accidentally or kicked it or moved it out of the way, I'd find them in the new spot. And so they were chasing the fog around. So they do really know. I don't know what they do or how they know, but they do know. And as they sleep, they get that stuff done. So I guess it's just nature telling them, hey, go to the left, buddy, go to the left a little bit more, or, they go this direction. So.
Wow. That's cool. And so enclosures, we have Bill's options.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, I know you've talked a lot about screen cages and how there are, it's not the end all be all that some people make it out to be. What beyond your system, what are some of the other options, like Exoterra, the 36 by 36 inch Exoterra enclosures, or homemade, or modifying the screen cages to get some type of a hybrid? Yeah, to get like a hybrid.
There are a lot of cages that are out that a lot of new companies have come out, and I haven't kept up with all the new ones that are coming out.
I just haven't seen them, right? I mean, I've seen yours, and I've seen Exoterra's things. But
well, you mentioned something about building your own. If
possibly.
you have this is what I tell. I am about the worst salesperson when someone calls up Dragon Strand and asks me about the cages, and they mention that they could build their own. I actually say, if you can build your own, do it. What I say is, if you want a 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage, then buy it because it's available. If you're going to make and a lot less time and I know everybody says that they're saving money, but when you look at the tools, the time, the materials that you don't use, it's not saving money. But if you are able to make your own cage and go beyond 2x2 by 4, I encourage that.
I mean, I would love to have something really wide, right? I mean, the 24 by 24 just seems kind of limiting for an animal that would be cruising through the trees and not really up and down all that much.
That is correct. And so if you're able to make a 4 foot cage, you go to 5 foot. If you're able to make it, I will tell you, the larger it is, the more environments you'll be able to create and the more enjoyment you are going to have watching it.
Cool. Yeah. I think I can tackle it. I'm sure there are designs and things out there.
It's so easy. It's really just 6 sides.
Yeah, exactly. You're making a box.
I have made my own chameleon cages. Half of my cages are built by me. They're built with Home Depot PVC. It's available in our area and screen. Um, I love Bill's cages. I would modify some of them for our area, and we can go into
Okay.
specifics together when we talk in the future. Um, but I think you could actually build them yourself and do well. You have to have the tools and what have you, but it does take time. I mean, and I went through multiple versions of my cages. Every single one of my cages is different. I have 15 double cages that every one is different than the next because I upgraded every single time because I figured something out. I put the drain in the top, and I put the drains like a normal drain, but then the lip kept the water in. So then I screwed the drain to the bottom, and drilled holes into it. So then the water went out. I made them on wheels so I could wheel them outside, and then I realized that you connect the pipes, you connect the fog, you connect the mist, and then you just have to no, it's better to have a cage outside and one inside, and the wheeling them out is just as bad for the chameleon as the carrying them out. I mean, not carrying them out, but letting them ride on you out, or on a stick or what have you. That's no more dangerous for them, and probably more dangerous if you drop the cage and knock it over. So I went through a whole bunch of different versions of everything, and I've gotten to the point where what I really like is back, sides, bottom, solid. I like the top to be screen, all of them. I don't know that anyone's ever said the top should be not anything but screen for airflow. And then I like the front to be screen, and I don't care what the door. I like it to have a door, like Bill's doing. Some of the commercial manufactured ones have a door on the bottom, so you open it up and you could work in there without bothering the chameleon because they're on the top 2/3 of the cage most of the time, and that will help you with. And even if you want to do bioactive, you have 3 sides. You put a piece of PVC that's 4 or 5 or 6 inches big, and then you dump it full of bioactive, and you put a screen over your holes in the bottom for the drain, and you've got a bioactive thing. The only question I have is I think the top 12 inches needs to be glass so you can see the chameleon really well. Not glass, but maybe PVC, but I'm using PVC that's thin and good. But I like the door to be screened because in our environment, it's so variable that it goes from being too dry and too moist that in this area of the country, where we live, I like it to be screened. I've got bills, and I'm, with the screen on them. I got bills with the glass or I got it's PVC, acrylic. Yeah, acrylic. And I actually prefer to have that to be a screen. I don't know why. It just seems to be better to me and work better. And so that's my idea. But we can help you build it. I can actually, if you want to, you're fairly close to me in Talmadge. I mean, you're like 45 minutes away. My daughter goes to University of Akron, which is like right by it. So we can do some things together. But for the audience, I know that I can't be building. My cages are too big and too heavy to ship. It would cost $2,000 for a double cage just to ship it. It's heavy. It's 1/2 inch PVC. It's a couple $100 probably, and so it would be very expensive to ship my cages. And you can't tear. You could take them apart and piece them, but they're not like you can't take them apart a bunch of times. They're not like cages. The other thing though that I found about my cages and why I'm going a different direction moving forward is they're double cages, so you can't separate them. So if one chameleon has a problem, you can't help you've got to do something that does both of them. The 2 spaces are separated, but you have to clean both of them, or you can't take one outside without taking the other outside. They're heavy, so you can't clean them easily. You can't take them outside and throw them in your bucket you get from Tractor Supply Company and spin them around in the bleach and spin them around in the water and take it back in like I do for some of my other cages. I am planning to get some cages that are very similar to Bill's, from Bill, that I've modified, and I've made some, but I'm buying them in bulk. And we'll see what happens with that.
If you buy them in bulk, you can get whatever you want.
But and so maybe we'll come out with a McZoo model of the Dragon Strand thing for I'm doing this on the live stream. I apologize, Bill. I shouldn't really have done this. I didn't mean to go this direction, but it's just the way I want to go. And you're in the same area as me, so in Southern California, I don't think you need to do that. I think you could have a screen cage, and have all four, whatever. If you were in Alaska, you'd have to have all glass, somewhere, like that. But so it all depends. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do and how you want to do it. It's all part of the learning process. That's why I did 10 cages on my own, or 12 cages, or I guess there's 20 cages, but because there's 10 sets of different things. But nonetheless, you just got to put the time in and think about it, and you can draw on my experience very easily. And I can tell you, I told Bill all the things I was doing as I went along, and he just kept, kind of laughing to himself about, I've done that before, and I've been there, and I did that, and and he didn't really, he was not negative, but he was like, you could tell he was. And I'm like, I know better. And I did it. And I'm like, I regret that. I regret this. I regret that. Oh, no, I regret that.
Yeah.
So that's why I know that's one of the reasons why every cage was different, because I upgraded. I upgraded 10 or 12 times. And now I'm back to, I really like Bill's cages, but I just want the top to be a piece that stays still so they don't lean, because that's the way his cages are, and not the Reptar Breezes don't have that top piece. And I do want a screen door. That's the whole thing, and it just works better for me. But you never know. Your basement could be different than mine. I don't know if you have whole house air conditioning or what you do. It's different.
We my eyes are watering. They're getting a little dry here, so
don't cry. It's okay. It'll be okay. We'll get the answer for you. We'll figure it out. I'll help you out.
I take
as we walk through it.
I take a lot of eye drops, but yeah, no, I'm you've intrigued me, Sean, about what may be coming. So keep me updated. So, but this is awesome, guys. I really appreciate it.
And not everyone can come on. We can't bring everybody on the show and talk them through it like this. But we hope that everyone's had an opportunity to hear things and ask. And we've had some questions asked. And I'm sure that along the way, hopefully the YouTube I fixed, and you're able to actually you do questions on, because I figured out that what I had to do is go on it and change it. It was for kids, and I changed actually this show. Specifically the show. I don't figure out how to make it pull out that way, but I did that before we did the show, and instead of after the show like I was doing before. And it's on Facebook, and so you can ask questions. Please ask questions. And we could do another show about this kind of thing if you're in a different area of the world, and or at least the country, and you want to figure out. Bill's always willing to talk chameleons. He talks chameleons all the time. That's why I put him on here. He's an expert in this live stuff, and he's an expert in podcasting. And so there's a lot of knowledge. I just bring a little bit of experience, a little bit of craziness, and a willingness to find guests every week. So that's the partnership here. Any other questions, Tom, to wrap it up?
No, I just thank you guys a lot. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Bill, any thoughts? Last thoughts?
Oh no, it's fun going through the analysis of individual situations. I enjoyed this.
And we'll have to bring you on, Tom, in a couple weeks, a couple months, when this decision is made and the cage is done, and then critique your cage. But but it won't be fair if I help you build it. I won't be able to critique it. Unless we get into a philosophical difficulty argument, and then we can come on and both argue our points and see how well the chameleons do. But nonetheless, that would be an interesting show, but I probably wouldn't have a big audience. Nonetheless, okay. All right. Final thoughts for tonight. I look forward to next week. This Sunday, I'm going to be at the Fremont Reptile Show. BRM is the name of it. I'll not that I'm advertising. I'm just telling you where I'm going, and I'll be there looking for a person, maybe someone who speaks axolotl that can come on next week and be there. But then maybe I'll meet our buddy Steve, because Steve, who's on the Chameleon Enthusiast, lives over there on that side of the country. That side of Ohio. Like Ohio is the only country that we're in. So and meet him and maybe bring him on. But he's been on the show a couple times before. It was actually a show. But
guys, you see what kind of trouble you've caused?
What?
You see what kind of trouble you've caused? Look at the chat. Now people are talking about showering with their chameleons. You know what? This is spun way out of control.
And that's what this is all about. And you know what? We went over an hour for the first time, probably in a long time. So not only was it fun, but it was fast. So we'll have to. We used to keep it to 30 minutes after I was recovering from the stroke, but I don't even feel exhausted. I feel like I go another hour, but even Bill's starting to yawn. So
I'm always doing that.
Bill's the kind of guy that gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. If I see 5 o'clock, I'm still awake. So it's a different kind of thing. Although it's all 3 hours earlier there, so I don't know why.
It's not really early.
Right. And I don't mean 5 o'clock Eastern. I do mean 5 o'clock Pacific.
Oh yeah.
And I did say Pacific. I'll do that just once.
It's 4 o'clock. That's
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock's the entrepreneuring hour.
And that's good for me, but I'm still awake. I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock. I still will be awake. That's my role. But anyways, all right, guys. Thanks a lot for tonight. It was great fun. We'll have to do this again and follow up in maybe 3 or 4 months, see what happens. Tom will come back, either talk turtles and tortoises or new chameleons or both. And that will be a longer show. But I'm ending the stream here, and we'll see you next week.